you can sense that it's kind of love bombing, and the avoidants don't do it in a love bombing way. It's actually they kind of choke it back. They really don't want to say it. Because avoidants find vulnerability very difficult, I'm going to give you 5 ways to tell that an avoidant is actually in love with you. And the reason that I made this video is because I have a lot of clients that are in relationships with avoidants, and because they're a little bit distant and detached from them, they're not quite sure how they feel about them. Or for the people who have broken up with an avoidant or have gotten broken up with, I want to give you guys a little bit of clarity on whether that relationship was something that was actually important to that avoidant. And you know, I know people in the comment section are going to say it doesn't really matter because we're broken up and you know we need to just move on. But in order to find closure, you know, you find that acceptance in that breakup. And I think all relationships that end, you have to be able to get to that acceptance stage in order for you to truly be able to let go, heal, and move on. So there are 5 things that they will say or they'll do that show you that they're actually in love with you, or worse, at some point in love with you. And the first thing that they would do would, they'll share things with you that they've never shared with anyone else. And what that means is they can have some very traumatizing stories that they hold to themselves because they don't like oversharing their personal life and their personal information. But if they're in love with you, or if they're starting to fall in love with you, they can let their guards down and be a little bit more vulnerable than they would with someone that they've dated in the past, or someone that they just kind of had a fling with. So if you've heard the stories about, you know, how mom did this or dad did that, or you know, someone in the family did something egregious towards them, and they won't go to a counselor, they won't go to a therapist to dissect what exactly happened to them, then most likely they are trusting you, and trust is a big thing for them. It's really a milestone that you cross when you're able to get their trust and earn their trust. The second thing that an avoidant would do is they'll provide acts of service. If you guys are familiar with a book by Gary Chapman called 5 Love Languages, one of those love languages are acts of service. And this is one that I see a lot of avoidants really utilize to their advantage, because they don't have to talk about, you know, their feelings, they don't have to talk about their emotions. It's a way of them showing you their love for you instead of having to actually be that vulnerable to just outright say it. And let's not forget, most of the individuals who end up with an avoidant attachment style, they never had this level of communication, this level of nurturing and trust as a child. The third thing that they will do is they'll initiate more contact with you, and they'll be wanting to see you more. This may, when you see this later on when they start to fall out of love with you, but when they're falling in love with you or when they're in love with you, they will give you their time. They will be present. You know, they'll go to the family functions, they'll go to the games and all the things in the society. This is one of the reasons too why a lot of people get caught off guard, because in the beginning, the avoidant will pursue you. They will initiate the contact. They'll set up the first dates. They'll do all those different things in order for you to feel like, oh, this relationship could be going somewhere, or this person is really into me. The fourth thing that you'll see is something that they will say. And I've heard this from a lot of clients. I've heard this when people say, hey, I know for a fact that my dismissive avoidant loved me because they said things like, I never thought I'd find someone like this, or I've never had this feeling before. If they've said something like that to you, then just know that they really felt that when they were in that moment. This is different from when someone's dealing with someone who's narcissistic. Whenever we're having those conversations and I ask them certain questions, and they'll give me without a shadow of a doubt that this person said these things and they actually believed it and they felt it, you know, just had this connection with that person, then just know that that was actually something that they truly felt. But for someone that's on the narcissistic spectrum, you can sense that it's kind of love bombing, and the avoidants don't do it in a love bombing way. It's actually they kind of choke it back. They really don't want to say it, but it's something about being in those moments that allow for them to be that vulnerable with you. So that's the reason why I put that one in here, for when they're falling in love with you. And the last one is they'll share their resources with you, which means they'll share finances, they'll share connections with people that they have in a network as far as work-wise. They'll really be someone that's a good team player and have your back. And the reason I even decided to put that one in there too is because you know, there can be a little bit of confusion of narcissism and avoidance, where, you know, people who are on that narcissistic spectrum, they typically don't want to share anything. It's, if they do share something, it'll be kind of an investment on something that they can get in return. Thank you guys, and always remember, when you go be loved, you'll never have to find it.